face the east towards Jerusalem. Elder Mikael, can you open us up in prayer, please?
Our Father, most holy and true covenant, Elohim, may Abraham, Meshach, and Yaakov. We thank you, Father Yahweh, for allowing us, Father, to make it together, Father Yahweh, to hear your mighty word, Father, that it may nourish our bodies, Father Yahweh, and our souls, Father Yahweh, to fill us, Father Yahweh, with your spirit, Father Yahweh, to understand your word, Father Yahweh. So we ask, Father, that our hearts, Father, become soft and malleable, Father, to receive your word, Father Yahweh. And we pray for your understanding of your word, Father, that we may do your word, Father, in Yeshua's mighty name, Father Yahweh. We pray that your word, Father, be sent to the four corners of the world, Father Yahweh, to touch who you might, Father Yahweh. They may follow you, Father, and worship you, Father Yahweh, and do your holy and mighty will. Give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's mighty name, Father, for allowing us to speak your word, Father Yahweh. Thank you for calling us, Father, to your service, Father Yahweh, and praise you in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yedan Yasharal. I'm with my elder brother, Mikael Yasharal.
Shabbat Shalom, brother.
Shabbat Shalom. And title of today's Shabbat study is Honoring the Sabbath Day. Honoring the Sabbath Day. Now, we have a documentary that we did on IsraelitesGathering.com and on the YouTube page about the Sabbath day, showing the validity of the Sabbath day and why you should keep the Sabbath day, so forth and so on. But if you have made it this far, then you understand the importance of the Shabbat. And the purpose of this study is to examine, how do we honor the Sabbath day? And we'll touch a little bit about what the Sabbath day is and some of the history of how we got to the place where many of us don't even know what the Sabbath day is. Many of us are not even keeping the Sabbath and profaning the Sabbath and turning a first day of the week into a Sabbath day. So we'll discuss some of that, some of the history and the Apocrypha that goes over that. And we'll also look at how we can keep the Sabbath day, because the Sabbath is a sign between the Most High Yah and his children, that we are his children and he is our Elohim. So we know that that is an important sign to the Father. Well, how do we show that sign? We know what we've been told. We know what we've been taught. Well, we're going to review what does the scripture say about how we keep this Sabbath day, how we honor that, because we want to make sure that we show that sign to the Father, because we want to be his children and we want to be under the covering of the Most High and his word. So we're going to open up first in the Apocrypha. we're going to go into Maccabees, the book of Maccabees. First Maccabees, and we're going to start this at chapter 1. Now, if you don't have access to the 1611 King James Version Bible or the apocryphal books, again, you can always go to IsraeliteGathering.com and go under the books and Bibles link, and we'll have access to every book we'll ever read. And nearly every book we'll ever reference will be accessed there for free, where you can download it, or you can read along, or you can access it either way. So we're going to open up in First Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And this is Sabbath history. This is a little bit of history of how we got to a point where we were not keeping the Sabbath day anymore.
Brother Wesley, when you get a chance, to the class, take care of Mosaic.
All right, so we're in First Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Terry, Sister Tafara, Yashara, and Shabbat Shalom, Brother Melvin. Good to see y'all. Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Yehuda Yashara. Good to see you too, brother. All right. So again, the title of today's Shabbat study is Honoring the Sabbath Day, and we're opening up in Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetam, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead over Greece. So this is another reason they took this book out, because they call him Alexander the Great. Well, I don't know anything that was great about this man, but ultimately it's showing you a time in history that we can trace in our history books, so you can get an idea of how long ago this was. This was not that long ago. All right. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So we know what happens when a man's heart is lifted up high and he's exalted.
He gets puffed up.
He gets puffed up. You know what's going to happen right after that? You're going to have a great what? Fall. A great fall is coming. Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And from this point on, you're going to see many nations that were melanin nations that now have white leadership. Now have the Greeks have the Greek stronghold, where now they have changed the leadership to, like, this is now a white nation, because you have white leadership. So we assuming now in history, we see a lot of countries where you see white people, like in Egypt, you see white people running Egypt. You see white people running other nations. You assume, well, they've been there.
Yeah,
no,
they've been there all this time.
No. Ptolemy came and ruled Egypt, which was one of Alexander, the so-called great son of Philip of Macedonia, his boys. And that's how Egypt started getting whitewashed. Verse 5.
Breed them out. That's what they used to use the term, breed them out.
Oh, yeah. It's just like what they did with Cuba.
Yeah.
The same thing. They bust the Europeans in, and they continue enslaving the melanin people of the region, and start whitewashing them, sleeping with the women and killing off the male seed. And that's how you get lighter and lighter and lighter. They did that in China with Genghis Khan. They did that in Brazil. They did that in America. They did that in all these places. Verse 5. And after those things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and he parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died. and his servants bear rule, everyone in his place. And this is what happened. His young friends, he grew up because Alexander, he died at what, 30?
30 years old.
30 years old?
33.
Yeah, he was in his 30s.
Yeah, he was
died very young. So, you know, these young rulers that grew up with him, they young too.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a bunch of young warriors fighting for control. All right. Verse 8. And his servants bear rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns, so did their sons after them, many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. And he reigned in 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days, there went out of Yasharal wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed for them, we have had much sorrow. And this nothing new under the sun. We call them coons now. Yeah. People that want to partner up with the other nations to turn their back on their own people for their own selfish gain, versus trying to stay with their own people and strengthen their own people and maintain their own culture. No, they want to wipe out their culture and take on the Greek culture so that they can receive money. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Mizraim, that he might have him dominion over 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Mizraim with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Mizraim. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Mizraim, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Mizraim. He returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Yasharal at Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken away all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoke very proudly. Therefore there was great mourning in Yasharal, and every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. And this is what happens when you have a great oppression on a country where you have a very beautiful and delicate woman that carries herself in a virtuous manner. She is hardened now. Her face is hardened. She is more masculine because she has to harden herself, or she's going to get destroyed in this siege. And the man is broken down, and he's lost his courage and his self-esteem to the point where he's easily broken, and now he becomes feminine.
You know, brother, we're also looking at when we look at those verses, that verse in verse 11, when he's talking about men of Israel, wicked men. Basically, you can say that those wicked men was traitors to their people.
Right.
And traitors to their nation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you can see that the people wasn't doing right, because how in the world would another nation come in to destroy, our people, our nation, if we were following Yah? If we were following our commandments, statutes, and judgments, we was doing the will of Yahweh, they could not come in and do those type of things.
Right.
So our people was also to blame, because even though he had many wicked men that would side with the enemy, you had our own people that wasn't doing right. So Yahweh used that to say, no. I'm going to let your enemies come in because that's his will, you know? Because, he has permissive will and he has his will. And he allowed that to come in because the tree also teaches us a lesson to follow his will and stop going against his will, or he wouldn't have this problem.
Exactly. And this was prophesied. All of this was prophesied in Daniel chapter 10 when the angel told him, hey, listen, I just had to fight with Prince of Persia, which is the angel that's over the Persian kingdom. And guess what? After I'm done with them, here comes the Prince of Grecia. So he was prophesying the captivities we were going to have to deal with, the Persian captivity, and then we had to deal with the Grecian captivity is what we're seeing now. And that's what we're still in, that whole Greek-Roman captivity. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 27. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Yehuda, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude. And he spake peaceable words unto them, but deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Yasharal. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great strong wall with mighty towers and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified therein. They stored it also with the armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, so they became a sore snare. So here is more further proof that how these other nations and Gentiles and Greeks got into the region and took over Jerusalem to the point where Jerusalem is being overrun with strangers. Verse 36, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary and an evil adversary to Yasharal. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. And so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon was made a habitation of strangers and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Shabbats into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
1 second on that. I just want to add, that's like New World Order.
That's exactly what that is. Everybody become one. Everybody leave your culture and your beliefs and believe in this new culture of belief.
Right.
This new way of things, because we'll have peace. Because we're all fighting because we're disagreeing about our nationalities. No, that's not the case. For thousands of years, you had peace where brothers would be able to keep their own culture and their own way of things, and then they would keep their own. Mm-hmm. But no, everybody wants you to come together, just like even now, no different than these camp doctrines. Everybody should come together. But no, leave your camp, come to my camp, and we all be together. That's not what it's about. We should be able to have our own assemblies and our own camps of different places that we can still be together, but you have your own house. That's like saying everybody leave your house and come live in my house.
And there's something else. What about the doctrine?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people want to change the doctrine. Mm-hmm. They don't want to follow the doctrine as it's written, what Yahweh is saying. No, they want to add to the doctrine. Right. And that's another problem, because they want you to, like I say, forget your culture, but also let's say, okay, we're gonna work this way. Instead of saying we're gonna keep the Sabbath today, we're gonna keep the Sabbath tomorrow. Right. And that's how that Sunday was born. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like we're not gonna Judaize or Yehudaize the Sabbath day. Either you keep this Sunday or you die. Right. See, and that's how people had problems in Jerusalem. You know, because they want to pull you into their belief system, but if you don't want to get pulled into a belief system, then they'll kill you. Right. You know, so we should not go divide ourselves up. You know, let's say the correct meaning of it is we should not lump ourselves together if we're not following everything in what's in the scripture.
Right.
If we're not under the same belief, have one mind, then we cannot be together. Because
Right.
two cannot walk down the road unless they agree.
Right.
So that's what all that division comes from. Everybody wants to break off to their own camp and they want to do their will. They don't want to do the Father's will.
Right.
That causes problems. That causes division.
I agree. And I think, in my opinion, we should walk together as much as we can.
Yes.
Because we're a nation. We're still family. Just like we have family members that don't do the right thing, that are not in the word or in the word and not doing the right thing. You still my family. I still love you. I'm going to walk with you as far as I can. We're going to walk all the way up into that point of transgression. And then now we got to part ways.
We got to part ways.
And that's love. I'm not going to hate you.
No.
And that's how we should be with these assemblies. Listen, we all agree in Yah. We all believe in the Mashiach. We all believe that this word is the truth and everything was great, but you want to keep a Sabbath according to the moon. Well, I can't walk with you there. Can't walk with you. The moon was created on the 4th day. Ain't got nothing to do with the Sabbath day. So let me, hey, cool. But hey, when we talking about keeping the Shabbat, and we talking about the Sabbath is important, we walking together.
That's right.
But when the 7th day come and you want to go another direction, guess what? I'm moving to the right, you going to the left. It is what it is. And guess what? I don't have no love laws for my brother. I can't walk with that. I assume if I know you doing the best you can. And when the Mashiach come back, he gonna straighten all that. Whether it's me or him, and he tell me, hey, you wrong. You got to follow a moon. Hey, don't make sense, but hey, Yahshua said it. That's the word. It's straight from Yah. That's what I'm going to do.
That's right.
Until then, he not here physically, so I'm going to follow what the scriptures say.
That's right.
All right. And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Marshall. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Corrine Berry. Shabbat Shalom, Ariel Smith, sister. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Andre Stinson. Good to see y'all. And again, the title of today's Shabbat study is Honoring the Sabbath Day. And we're in 1 Maccabees. 1 Maccabees. 43. And we're at verse 43. Yea, many also of the Yasharalai consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Yehuda that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the holy days, the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all their ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he should die. So this is how they got us. So it wasn't always just disobedience, because at some point, to even get to this point, for any nation to even come in here, there had to be disobedience.
Of course.
But it was being done behind closed doors. They were behind, the elders behind their closed doors. They would go in there, like it talked about with Yazaniah and some of the other elders would go in there, and they would have all these weird manner of beasts drawn all over their walls and sacrificing and burning incense to other gods. And all this stuff was done in secret. And Yah said, no. Y'all want to do that in secret? Y'all don't want to keep this Shabbat? Y'all don't want to honor my holy days? Guess what? I'm going to bring another nation in that hates you, and they're going to force you to do that. And now where you crying, oh, no, I still want to keep the Sabbath too, while I do this other stuff behind closed door. No, now you're not even going to be able to fake like you want to keep it.
Nope.
We're going to kill you if you try to keep it. Now, guess what? Those that wanted to keep the Shabbat now had to suffer because of this.
They suffered terribly.
Verse 51. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Yehuda to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Yasharalai into secret places, even whosoever they could flee for secure. Now the 15th day of the month Casalu In the 145th year, they set up the abomination desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Yehuda on every side. So despite this, there's going to be a remnant of brothers and sisters that want to keep these commandments. And we that remnant right now. If you are trying to keep this Shabbat day right now, you are the remnant that are trying to keep these commandments. The same remnant was around back then where they had to flee to secret places and in basements and on roofs and in mountains and all kind of places so that they could safely keep the Shabbat. And that's what they had to do. But nowadays, we don't have to safely keep the Shabbat. Nobody's trying to kill us to keep the Sabbath day. All we have to do is avoid temptation of wanting to go party or wanting to go hang out or wanting to go make yourself unclean or whatever so that you can keep the Sabbath day. But these brothers here had to flee and sisters had to flee at the threat of death. And this is why they removed these things out the books, because if you read these type of things, then you're thinking a little bit more about trying to make your Sabbath day the first day of the week versus the seventh day of the week, when people tell you, oh yeah, you can keep it any day of the week. Oh yeah, you know, we honor Yah every day. Nah, but you're to hallow the seventh day. And we're going to get into the commandments regarding that as well.
Because you know, it's a funny thing. If you keep the Sabbath every day, then it means you don't get no work done, right? You resting every day.
You lazy.
You lazy. You resting every day.
Or you dead. You know,
Yeah,
there's plenty of people in the grave that rest every day.
That's right.
Because they dead.
Let me ask you a question. Did we ever go into this further about the abomination desolation that was upon the altar? It's basically, you know...
talking about the prophecy or this one that happened?
This one right here.
Yeah, that's when they brought that statue up in there.
Statue up in there, yeah, this idol. You know, I mean, I had a conversation with somebody once before about that, and they were thinking about, you know, that was dealing with revelations. No, this is, how you say, a prelude,
right,
you know, to revelations.
You have a near prophecy and you have a far prophecy.
You know, this is what they brought by their own hands to how you say just defile the temple, defile the altar, to go against for the Yah.
Graven image.
You know, that's right.
Of some Greek.
That's right.
And you're gonna put that inside the temple.
That's right. And later on, then you know, Hasatan is going to show himself.
Right.
In the sides of the north. You know what I mean? He wants to sit on the throne.
And he's going to call himself the Most High.
That's right.
Right.
You know, so I just wanted to bring that point up, you know, because somebody else was talking to me about that. You know, I remember about 2 years ago, and I said, no, that's not what that means right there. Man did this.
Right.
Right here.
Right. Right. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 55. And burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. So when they start putting folks to death for keeping this word, we gonna see what time it is, who really want to keep these commandments. But if you wasn't trying to keep the commandments now, when you have freedom to do that, if you don't have to work, and you have the choice and you know about the Sabbath, you're not going to pass this test here. Just like you're not going to say, you know, you in kindergarten and be like, here's the SAT. Take the SAT to get. You're not going to get no test like that. You got to learn your ABCs. So the Most High not going to put you through those kind of tests and you ain't learned your ABCs. You ain't learned, hey, thou shalt not kill. You haven't learned honor the Sabbath day, the fourth commandment. You haven't kept that. You haven't kept his Moadim, his holy days, his set apart days. You haven't done all that. You're not going to be ready for that test because you showed in pleasure you will do whatever you want to do to satisfy the flesh. So to avoid pain, we've already proven in science and tests that a human body will do whatever it can to avoid pain over trying to go for pleasure. And we utilize that same mentality in war. The pleasure in a war where somebody really wants to hurt you so bad. Well, if they want to hurt you so bad, they're going to avoid the pain that you're trying to inflict on them over the pain of them trying to inflict on you. And you use that to your advantage in war.
They got something else you just said, you know, let's twist that on the other side. We just got you reading on Tuesday, you know, about the brothers that in Maccabees in chapter 7. you know, and how those brothers were 7 brothers and their mother had withstood the torturous things, that atrocities that this king had put upon them to make them eat swine's flesh.
Right.
And they will not eat swine's flesh. They will not, go against the Most High. They will not defile themselves.
Right.
And they was going to horrible pain, especially when you cutting off limbs and burning the stumps so they wouldn't bleed out, so you can torture them all day long, you know. So these men overcame that level of pain to give honor to the Father.
Right.
Now, we can't say if we'll be able to withstand the level of torture, of pain, that level of atrocity done to our bodies.
Right.
You know what I mean? We only hope that, you know, if we have to succumb to this kind of stuff, that we can be as strong as those brothers and their mother to withstand that pain.
Right.
But Yahweh had given those brothers, you know, strength in them to withstand that pain. That the world, and that world can see that they gave honor to the Father, no matter what they did to the body, because they believed in absence of the flesh is present with Yah. You know, so those guys and their mama gave glory to the Most High, no matter what they did to them. So we don't know if we'll be able to withstand that type of thing. But those brothers was practiced.
Right.
See, that's the thing my brother's talking about right now. Those brothers and his mother and his sister, they were practiced in this. So when it was time to be in that ball game, as they say, in that basketball game, in that football game, or have war on that field, they knew what they were supposed to do, but they didn't know if they could fulfill that.
Right. They played like how they practiced.
They played like how they practiced, and it was fulfilled. So praise Yah to that.
All praises. All right, so we're at 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 58.
No, 7.
No, we're at 58.
Oh, 58. Right.
Yeah. Thus did they by their authority unto the Yasharalai every month to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of Yahweh. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
Wow.
Again, we just had that class, Hebrew women of faith. These women gave their lives to not have their child grow up not in the covenant. Now, you had people, a mother would do anything to protect their child. But these mothers were giving their lives and the lives of their children, because the children were going to be killed after this, in order to keep this covenant with the Most High. That's how important it was. And that means they grew up with fathers and mothers that instilled in them the importance of these commandments. Verse 61.
There's another part to that too. Those children in Scripture, sons were circumcised on the 8th day of their life. And these people murdered those babies if you circumcised those babies. Because you was keeping the ordinance of the Father. You was keeping the covenant with the Father. So they didn't want you to do that. So they murdered them babies. And when you did it, they murdered you too. So they knew what was going to happen to them. But they kept Yahweh's law anyway. So that child went to the Father. And because of their act and their honor they gave the Father, we can basically say that Yahweh, they had put treasure in their cauldron, treasure in their crucible when Yahweh it's time to judge them. So praise Yah for that.
Right, and that's the strength of our women. Our women, again, you go into Exodus, our Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians. They are lively women, for they are delivering the babies before the midwife even get there. Whatever they got to do to survive, to protect that child's life. Mothers will do that, period. But Hebrew mothers on a whole nother level.
What they say in the New Testament that Yeshua was talking about, if you deny me to men, and he's going to deny to us, to his Father. So this woman, of these women and these men that died, to go against, man and die for the Father, well, they did not deny Yah. So that's what we have to think about.
Right.
We don't know how we're going to play, so we have to practice as hard as we can and believe. So if that time comes, we won't deny the Father before men.
Right, right. And understanding, denying Yahshua is denying this word, because he is the word in flesh. All right. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 61. And this is what they did to the children. And they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Yasharal were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. This is what our ancestors did. This is the strength in our bloodline, why the Most High chose us to be his nation, in the spirit that he put in us. That spirit is only going to come into you if you're a commandment keeper. Period. Your vessel has to be strengthened. There has to be angels with you, giving you the power to have that much resolve to keep these commandments. And that happens from practice. So when the game time, when your salvation is on the line, the time of your visitation, you will be strengthened to do the right thing for your nation and for your Elohim. All right, so we're going to go to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to get straight into the first Sabbath. Genesis chapter 2. Bereshit chapter 2, and we're just going to read verses 1 through 3 on this. Because you have certain people teaching that, you know, the Sabbath rotates some kind of way, and you got people chasing the Sabbath, looking up at a moon and trying to use the moon to tell you when your Sabbath is. It doesn't add up. And we're going to go through scriptures and we're going to see how. You know, now, if that's your level of understanding and that's the best you can come up with, and in your heart you're truly trying to follow instructions of the Most High, I can't judge that. I don't know that. That's not my place to do that. But what I can do is tell you, hey, listen, that's not according to these scriptures. Nowhere in here these scriptures tell you to look for the moon and then count certain days and that's your Sabbath. It doesn't work that way. The moon has a different cycle on its own that is not equal to the cycle of our weeks.
But brother, you know, I look at it like this too. You have to have a humble heart, because there's a brother in here that named Apollos and so forth, that when he was told, you know, that he needed to be baptized in Yeshua's holy mighty name to receive the Holy Spirit, he did not waste time. He was open-hearted enough to know his heart wanted the Most High. He was trying to teach him the Most High. So when he was directed by these other brothers to teach him another level of truth, you know, that he did not know, he submitted, wholeheartedly submitted to them and said, okay, let's get it done. Because he wanted all what Yahweh has to give. And I think that's how we're supposed to be. We do the best that we can. But if a brother's coming to show you a level of truth that you didn't know, and it's in Scripture, the truth is right there in front of you, don't deny Yahweh's word. Right. You know, humble yourself. Think about it for a minute if you want. Precept it, you know, and then, you know, submit to it. Right. If you know that it's true. Right. Don't just cast it out, throw it away. Right. And it wasn't like Apollos wasn't doing good works already. He was already doing good works in the name of the Adonai Yahshua. That's right. But when he was presented with a more perfect way to be better, he was able to do that, and now he was receiving gifts of the Holy Spirit. So it's the same thing with us. If you find out that what you're doing is not right, or there's a better way to do it, do your study and repent and move forward. So we're at Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Yahweh ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. All right, so this is the importance of the Sabbath day. Yahweh himself rested on the seventh day. And because he rested,
He sanctified that day, which means he separated that day. He made that day holy. So it's not for us to decide what day we want to rest and sanctify. Yahweh, when he created everything, he said, on this day, I created this day just to rest, just to sanctify, just to make it separate. Everything is based on the seventh day. One day from the seventh day is what?
One day from the seventh
Yeah.
day? Talking about Sunday?
It's the first day.
It's the first day.
That's why it's called the first day, because it's one day from the Sabbath day.
That's right.
2 days from the Sabbath day is the second day.
Second day.
And 6 days from the Sabbath day is the preparation day.
That's right.
The 6th day.
Yeah, 6th Friday.
So then guess what? The 7th day is 7 days from the 7th day, the Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is separated. Same thing with Abib.
That's right.
The first month of the year for Rosh Hashanah.
That's right.
It's the only month given a name. That's why it's separated, it's sanctified.
That's right.
Abib. Then second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, 6 months, so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm. You need some water, bro?
No, I'm fine, brother.
You good? All right.
All right. So we're going to move on from there. So we see that he sanctified that day. That's why that day is so important. All right. Now let's go back. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Now we're going to look at why you can't use the moon to determine your Sabbath day or your month, but you definitely can't use it for the Sabbath day. Genesis, Bereshit chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 14 through 19. So he had just gave the first 3 days in creation. Now we're going to the 4th day, and we're seeing what was created on the 4th day. Bereshit chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser night to rule the night. Lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars. And Elohim said, set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. So the fact that this sun, moon, and stars were all created on the 4th day, that creates a problem with the lunar doctrine. Mm-hmm. It creates a problem with, okay, the month is going to start with the moon, the starting of the moon. The moon here wasn't created until the 4th day. Problem. So how are you going to start your month every month with the moon? If the moon wasn't created in the 4th day, what happened to the days before? They just disappeared? They can't disappear, because this is the 4th day, and then you got 3 days later, he's saying 7th day. Mm-hmm. So that means the count still went forward. It didn't start and say, and then the 1st day again, Yahweh created such and such. And then on the 6th day, he created man. And then on the 7th day, and then on the 3rd day, he rested. No, it doesn't add up. The count kept going on. So that means you can't use a moon to start your month. Furthermore, if you look at the lunar cycle, it's 354 days for 12 moons. That means your year too short. Or if you continue and do like the Jewish people, they add an 8R2 sometimes. Yeah. And now you have 383 and a half or 384 days, which is way too far. So you can't use it. So if you use it for the Shabbat, it's the same principle. So what did that mean? After the 4th day, that now became the 7th day? Or that become the 1st day, and then on the 3rd day you rested? It don't add up. You can't use that moon to come up with your Shabbat. Just from the first book clarifies that.
354 days or 383 days, right?
383 and a half. Yeah. Because it's 29 and a half days average. So you can't get it, even if it had to be 28 days. And it don't add up. It can't add up. You're not going to get Yah's completion. To get a complete and perfect calendar, you have to use the ancient calendar. The only calendar where the author at least claims that they got it from the Most High. No other calendar claimed that they got it from the Most High. Man came up with that calendar. You have 364 days, which gives you 12 months, 52 weeks, and 7-day weeks. Perfect. That's the only way. So right there, you see clearly in Genesis, there's no way that you can have a moon to tell you when your Sabbath day is. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Exodus, Shemot, chapter 20. And we're going to look at this commandment regarding the Sabbath day. So in Genesis, it didn't command us to do that. It just told us the creation of what we needed to do. Now we get into these commandments, the dispensation of the law, where you're going to see us commanded to keep the Shabbat. So we're going to read Exodus chapter 20, and we're going to read the verses 1 through 12. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 20, and we're going to read verses 1 through 12. And when you are reading this in English, it takes away a little bit of the understanding. Because in English, the words are, it's like a real bastardized language that took from everything. And it's kind of a dead language where it gives meaning, but it doesn't truly give you the feeling that you get when things are being said in our native language, in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there's no misunderstanding what a word is saying because each word had an action with it. It was action associated with that word. So it wasn't just, remember the Sabbath. Well, what does that mean? So we're going to go through these Hebrew words so that we'll have a good understanding of what these things mean. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 20 and verse 1. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, your Elohim, which have brought you out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other mighty ones before me. You shall not make unto you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So people say, how is Yahshua going to die for all of us? It's saying in the law that the father shall not die for the son shall not die for the father's sins. True, and I agree. But at the end of the day, you're going to suffer for what your ancestors did. Your children going to suffer for what you did. Just like we are being blessed. The only reason we might be called into this word is because of something our ancestors did before us. Somebody that chose to die for these commandments, or chose to keep the commandments, or spoke up, or repented. We are being blessed for something that our ancestors did. So we're going to be cursed the same way. But you can increase the curses in your own generation below you, just like you increase the curses in your own life through your own transgressions. Verse 6, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So if you want mercy, love the Most High, keep his commandments. Verse 7, you shall not take the name of Yahweh your Elohim in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. How? 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea, and all them that is in, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So he hallowed this day. He blessed this day. You can't change that. You can't touch that, or else you make yourself into a god. You have turned yourself into a mighty one. You have made an idol out of yourself if you decide to put your hand on any of his commandments, especially the Sabbath day. The only day out of the whole week he separated. So this is important. And it's so important that it's not only for you, he's also talking about your maid, your manservant, your son, your daughter. And for this reason is why we can't go spend money on the Sabbath day. Because if we go out to the mall and say, I ain't working, I'm going to take the day off, but I'm going to go to the mall and buy me a nice fit. Nah, who you going to pay? You going to have to pay somebody. Well, he's not Israel. Well, then that's your manservant or that's your maidservant. The only reason they there is for you. So you can give them money. They're not there for fun.
No.
They're not there hanging out. They're not volunteering. They're there because they're there because you come in there to pay them so their boss can pay them to work. So this is why you can't spend money on the Sabbath day. You're not fooling the Most High. Because that is oppressing your brother or your sister.
You're making them sin.
You got folks, you got certain camps that they got food places open on the Sabbath day.
You're not supposed to
And they have their own people working there on the Sabbath day. That is utter wickedness. You are oppressing your people. And if you oppress your people, that's way worse than oppressing anybody else. So you cannot do that. You can't go to the movies. You can't go to the mall. You can't go buy some gas. You can't do anything because it is the Shabbat. Now, there are certain circumstances.
There's one rule. Yeah,
there are certain circumstances.
In the ditch.
If you're having an emergency, life or death, and you have to do a certain situation, you do that. Now, this is how I've handled the situation. I've messed up before, where I've gone on trips or whatever, and we stuck traveling on the Shabbat, which you're not supposed to, which we're going to read that as well. We shouldn't. But for whatever reason, we had to go out of town for an emergency or a situation. And while we're doing this, I didn't have myself prepared. I didn't make sure there was enough food. I didn't make sure there was enough, water for my children or whatever. And they hungry and they starving. Right. They starving. So this is what I did. Guess what? I'm going to have to bear that iniquity. This is my own personal decision. Because every man must work out their own salvation with fear and trembling. What I chose to do is say, you know what? I'm not going to have my babies starving. I'm not going to have my children starving. Are they going to die? No, they're not going to die. But hey, the Most High, you're going to have to put that burden on me. I'm going to let my children eat. And if my wife want to eat, she can eat too. But guess what? I ain't eating nothing. I'm going to starve. And I'm going to bear that. And I'm going to go before the Most High. I'm going to apologize that I didn't prepare for the Shabbat. Because that falls on me as the head of that household. That's my choice. Now, others may choose to do things otherwise. That's on them and that's on their household. So I'm not going to teach anybody to do that.
No.
But that's how I would manage my household because I'm responsible for the salvation of myself and being a covering for my children.
You see, what you said is pretty deep, like scripture's talking about if you judge yourself, Yahweh might not have to judge you, understand? But also, we also make mistakes. And so we put upon ourselves not to let our family suffer, but we supposed to suffer. Now, if Yahweh says that, okay, that might be enough for my son because he's judging himself and he's suffering for what he has done. We don't know if Yahweh is going to continue with his judgment on us for that, right. for what we just did. Could we use our will? We didn't do Yahweh's will. So we don't know how far Yahweh is going to take it with it, saying, look, that wasn't enough. And we don't know how he's going to manifest that judgment on us while we're in the flesh. So we have to be humble when we do make these mistakes. And we have to show Yahweh, look, I'm sorry, I did what I did, but forgive me in Yeshua's name. I pray that my mistakes, my sin does not fall upon my family. You know what I mean? So if you take it upon yourself, then it's coming to you. But still, whatever happens to you and your family, especially you're head of the family, will have effect on your family. If you're the head of your family, because everything rolls downhill. Hopefully, they won't be injured. But Yahweh is sovereign. We have to follow his will. And when we go against his will, we're going to pay a level of some price. So all I'm saying is that, if your ox falls into a ditch, Yahweh allows you to take care of certain things.
Right.
You understand? Because you have no recourse. You have to.
Right.
You have to take care of. If your ox fall, like to say, if your cattle fall in the ditch, what you gonna do? Leave them there to die?
Or your enemies.
No, or your enemies'
right.
Cattle.
And
no, you have to get up and handle that business. So he makes allowances for certain things. But we have to not, if we have to go to the store, your child have to go to a hospital or something like that, or they say, we have to, you need to go buy a drink of water or something like that for them. Don't go to the store and buy a Snickers
bar
bar with it.
Don't get no Skittles with it.
Yeah,
either.
Skittles and a Snickers bar
don't
with
get,
it.
Don't get some cigars with that.
Yeah, don't do
Nah,
that.
don't fool yourself. That ain't licensed to profane the Sabbath. You have
Right.
liberty because we are in the grace period. In other words, you got time to make that payment up.
Right.
But don't take advantage of that, because the Most High is not going to be mocked. He knows. The same thing with work. And you got certain brothers and sisters, you know, they may not have the best education. They might not have the best experience, or they might have felonies, or they might have certain situation that make it harder for them to get a job. So they get a job, and the only job they can get forces them to work on the Shabbat.
That's right.
Yahweh know the difference between that and the brother that's skilled and got a background, and he can make maybe $10 less an hour over here, still be able to pay his bills, but he gonna make $10 an hour extra if he work on the Shabbat. Y'all know the difference between those people. So you don't fool yourself. If you're working because you just want to get more money, or you just want to make your situation better, but you're not working because you have to, then you are basically trying to say, I'm going to put the blessings in my own hands. I'm not going to allow the Most High to bless me. Mm-hmm. And then we also have others that are in situations where, you know, they have to work on the Shabbat. There's no way around it. Now
we're not in our land. So
also, we are in the land of captivity. You got to do what you got to do. But we also have to remember, Yah leads a man to repentance. So you need to be on your knees praying, why is Yah not leading you to repentance? What is it that I'm doing that the Most High is not allowing me to get from under this oppression? We have to ask ourselves that. Mm-hmm. But that's not for another man to judge. All right, so verse 12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which Yahweh, your Elohim, gives you. Now, it's not a coincidence that these first 5 commandments are dealing with directly with Yahweh. You know, don't have no other gods. Don't make no graven images. Don't take his name in vain. Honor his 7th day, and then honor your father and your mother. Your father is Yahweh. That is your spiritual father. That's your first father.
That's right.
Before you had a carnal father, that was your first father. And your mother is this assembly, your church, Jerusalem, the people. That is your mother. Respect and honor them. And then also it extends out to your carnal father and your carnal mother, because that's who Yahweh gave you. You didn't choose that. Yahweh gave you that. So those are very important. Now we want to look at that Hebrew word for remember. If we look at the Hebrew word for remember, it's zakar, which is H2142, zakar, spelled Z-A-K-A-R, zakar. And that is a primitive root properly to mark. That is to remember by implication, to mention. Also, to be mindful, recount, record, remember, make to be remembered, bring to pass, come, keep, put in remembrance, still think on, well. So this is an action. Isn't just, hey, recall the Sabbath day. Hey, ain't today the Sabbath? Yeah, it is. Okay. I remembered. That's not what that is. Mm-hmm. You're not marking it. You're not being mindful of it. When you're being mindful of the Shabbat, you say, well, wait a minute, I can't do that. You know, like my parents, they move it. My mom, she wants to move. She don't keep the Sabbath day. I can't help you. I'm sorry. You gonna have to wait till Saturday sundown. Yeah. Period. Because I'm being mindful of the Shabbat, and she knew that, so she's just gonna sit and be patient.
That's right.
It is what it is. That's the difference between English and Hebrew. These words have action with it, not just, oh, I recall this. It doesn't say, hey, recall the Sabbath that it exists. No, there's calling you to action. Sabbath is H7676. Shabbat. Shabbat. S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H. Shabbat. And that's intensive from H7673. Intermission, that is the Sabbath. Every Sabbath. So this is the 7th day. Mm-hmm. Now, the word day is important as well, because this is where you get a lot of confusion. You have certain group of people that believe the word yom literally only means the warm part of the day, and it doesn't include the nighttime of the day. And then you have other people that believe the Sabbath start in the daytime because it says Sabbath day. So that causes confusion there. So let's look at this word for day. It's H3117, yom, spelled Y-O-M, yom. And that's from an unused root meaning to be hot, a day as the warm hours, whether literally from sunrise to sunset or from one sunset to the next. So it lets you know it could be used just like we say, hey, I'm going to see you in one day. Could mean 24 hours. Or I'm going to see you in the daytime tomorrow. I'm going to see you in the day tomorrow. Then it means in the daytime because you know he work at night. Yeah. So I'm going to see you in the day tomorrow. So you can be talking about the daytime portion. But it's still going to include either both or the warm hours depending on how you're going to use it. And it says continually a day, days, lasting, full life, required season, process of times, so forth and so on. And I had an elder that wanted to argue with me and say that, look, the Sabbath day only meant the daytime portion of the Sabbath. And that's what they do. They only keep the daytime portion of the Sabbath because he's saying in Hebrew, Yom only means daytime portion. And if you read the next exact verse, it blows that whole situation up. If you go here to the next verse, it says, honor the Sabbath day. And in verse 11, it says, for in 6 days, Yahweh made heaven and earth. 6 days. 6 daytime in the evening and the morning were day one, were the first day. So it's letting you know an evening and a morning passed. It didn't say only in 6 daytime portions. What happened to the night?
No, it didn't.
It's including everything. So in 6 days, it didn't say in 6 daytime portion. 6 whole cycles had to pass.
So how are you going to keep the holy days correct if you're only doing it 12 hours?
You got to throw the holy days out.
You got to throw it out.
You got to throw. That's the only way, because if you're trying to follow the Torah, you got to throw that out. You got to throw the whole thing out. All right, let's move on to Ezekiel chapter 20. And this is where we are given from the prophet, straight from Yah, that this Sabbath is a sign. This is our test. Who gonna really serve me? Who wants to serve me?
You know, it's funny. People think that, Exodus chapter 20 is only when the laws came into view. But no, Yahweh always had his laws here.
Right.
I mean, if you can go Exodus chapter 16, he tells you, when he brought down manna, he said, we'll see who's going to keep my Sabbath or no.
Read that. We're going to
You going to go there too?
Yep. Ezekiel chapter 20. And that's a good point, that he's going to prove who is going to serve me and who is not. That Sabbath is tied into that. If this is the sign, just like it's almost like a uniform. The Sabbath is like a uniform. How are you going to say you work for McDonald's and you're not showing up in your uniform? He's saying this is the sign that say, welcome to McDonald's. And says, my name is such and such. That's your sign saying that you work for McDonald's.
That's right.
Well, Yahweh said, well, this is my sign that I am your boss. And you are my employee. You are my servant. You are my child. You are in my family business. Because you showing me this sign, the sign to show you are Yahweh. Where's your Sabbath at? Oh, okay, Sabbath keeper. All right, he with me. Other than that, you're not getting in the building. Ezekiel chapter 20. Brother, can you help Mama?
You're going to start with 1?
Ezekiel 20. We're going to start this at verse 1. You're probably going to have to sit closer to that side so you can help her. Ezekiel chapter 20. And we're going to start this at verse 1. And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month, the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Yasharal came to inquire of Yahweh and sat before me. Then came the word of Yahweh unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto the elders of Yasharal, and say unto them, Thus says the Adonai Elohim, Are you come to inquire of me? As I live, says the Adonai Elohim, I will not be inquired of by you. Will you judge them, son of man? Will you judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers. And say unto them, Thus says the Adonai Elohim, In the day when I chose Yasharal, and lifted up my hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known unto them in the land of Mizraim, when I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. In the day that I lifted up my hand unto them, to bring them forth of the land of Mizraim, into a land that I had espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then I said unto them, Cast you away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Mizraim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Mizraim. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Mizraim. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, and bringing them forth out of the land of Mizraim. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Mizraim, and brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. So it's showing you, you can't keep the commandments without living in the commandments. Verse 12.
That's right.
Moreover, also I gave them my Shabbats, to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahweh that sanctifies them. So your keeping the Shabbat is the sign and proves that Yahweh separated you. He sanctified you from everybody else in the world because he gave you the Shabbat. Because I don't care who you are, where you are, what's going on in your life. When that Shabbat comes along, you hallowing that day. You resting that day. You sanctifying that day. Verse 13. But the house of Yasharal rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes. They despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. And my Shabbats they greatly polluted. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, in whose sight I brought them out. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Because they despised my judgments, and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Shabbats, for their heart went after their idols. So when you are polluting your Sabbath, it's because your heart is going after idols. And what is that main idol we going after on the Shabbat?
Money.
Money. Either we want to spend money or we want to make money. So therefore that money is your God. It's not saying that the money is the root of all evil. It don't say that.
No.
You have
the love of money.
You have profane. You have transgressed the last thing in Revelation. Do not remove from the word the love of money. That means when you honor, you bow down to that money. You have made it an idol. Furthermore, even if it doesn't involve money, you have made yourself into an idol because you said, I am a God, and I'm saying, God of me, I can worship myself. And this is how I worship myself. I do what I want. Brother, can you get incense?
Yeah, I'm good. But today, people go even further with that, because Yeshua came on the scene. People don't realize that the laws are still in place. The only thing that's not in place right now is animal sacrifice.
Right.
So
blood sacrifice.
That's
period.
right. And because, I can't remember the correct verse on that, because judgment is deferred, they do their own pleasures.
Because
wickedness abounds, the judgment is first.
It's not swift.
Right. And they're not getting smashed right now, like that brother who touched that ark and got smashed for it, died for it immediately. They running amok right now. They're saying, well, Yahweh understand, you know what I mean? I'm good, you know, I'm not being dealt with it right now, so he understand my heart. I'm not trying to, you know, really go against his word, but, you know, I got to go get this.
Right.
And don't realize you still, he understands. He understands you're not following his will. He understands that you don't want to follow his laws.
Right.
So he understands that you want to get judged by him. You know what I mean? And they don't realize that you're going to forget getting down on your knees, praying to the Father and begging forgiveness. You can forget. So by the time atonement comes around, you're not even going to remember the things that you did.
Right.
Going against the Father.
Right.
And that's going to come against us.
Right. Right. So we are at Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 17. Nevertheless, my eyes spared them from destroying them, neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. But I said unto the children in the wilderness, walk you not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and hallow my Shabbats. And they shall be a sign between me and you, that you may know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. So this is the Most High know if you belong to him already. He know that because he's the one that chooses who belongs to him. Many are called, but few are chosen. You don't make that choice. We can't choose and say, if that was the case, I choose every last one of y'all.
Yeah.
And say, because y'all mess with me, y'all good. Every one of y'all chosen. It don't operate that way. Yahweh chooses. But this Sabbath is a sign between you and your Father, that so you know that he is your Elohim.
That's right.
And you are his children. That's for you, so you know. Remember, the Sabbath wasn't, man is not made for the Sabbath. No, the Sabbath was made for man. That's for you to know this thing. So if you ain't keeping the Sabbath, you know you don't belong to the Most High. You know that. You can lie to yourself, but you know in your heart you do not belong to the Most High. That's why you go to other people, say, pray for me. Pray to your God that this happens.
And there's another part to that too. You know, Yahweh does that so to keep you, how you say, in fear of him. And I'm talking about a healthy fear. You know what I mean? And what I'm talking about is that if you know that you feel guilt, you convicted because you're not keeping his holy days, that means Yahweh is still with you. That means you want to do the right thing. You just made a mistake.
Right.
So he's telling you, get back on the path, son, before something happens to you. And the reason I say this, because Yahweh says, man does not know how long I'm going to strive with him.
Right.
So you don't know the day where Yahweh is going to leave you alone. And that's going to be the worst day of your life if Yahweh leaves you alone. Because then you're going to do all manner of things. You're going to be torturing yourself. And then again, hey, you could be you could be sealed. You know, and you have to continue to do the evil works that you do until the end of your existence in the flesh. And you know, if you ain't walking in with Yahweh, you know how you're gonna be judged. And that's a frightening thing, especially when Yahweh, you say, put your hand to the plow and you turn from it.
Right.
You know, you don't start working for Yahweh and then say, I'm tired, I don't want to work for Yahweh no more. Right. That don't work that way. It's better you've not even known Yahweh, that when he does show himself up to you, you will follow him, than to know him and walk away from him. Right. That's why he does that, to let us know where we're making our mistakes.
Ezekiel chapter 20, and we're at verse 21. Notwithstanding, the children rebelled against me. They walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. They polluted my Shabbats. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought for my name's sake that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, in whose sight I brought them forth. I lifted up my hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen and despise them and disperse them through the countries. So again, this is why we are dispersed throughout the countries, throughout all these nations, because we wouldn't keep the Shabbat. This is the literal sign. Now, that's not the only reason, but that's one of the major reasons. This is one of the major reasons why we're still in captivity, because we refuse to keep the Shabbat. So let's stop right there. Let's go back to Shemot, chapter 35, Exodus chapter 35, and we're going to look at something real quick about kindling a fire on the Sabbath. Exodus chapter 35, and that's something that is under much debate. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 35, and we're just going to read the verses 1 through 3.
Give her a hand right quick. I don't know if she's there.
Second book. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 35, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3. And Moshe gathered all the congregation of the children of Yasharal together and said unto them, These are the words which Yahweh has commanded that you should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be unto you a holy day, a Shabbat of rest to Yahweh. So the Shabbat is a holy day. It is a Kodesh Yom, a set apart day. So we should be treating the Sabbath like a holy day. This is every week we have a holy day. That's your Father's Day. Period. Honor your father and mother. There's no coincidence that comes right after the fourth commandment. Honor your father and your mother. So you honor your father by hallowing his day, the Sabbath day. All right. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be unto you a holy day, a Shabbat of rest to Yahweh. Whosoever does work therein shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Shabbat day. So it's telling you point blank that all your work is supposed to be done on on 6 days. And on the 6th day is called the preparation day. That's the day that you prepare for the Sabbath. So you do your best to cook your food, prepare all your stuff for the Shabbat, do everything you can. Again, we are in a land of captivity, and we don't have it where we're in our land where everything closed on the Shabbat. Some of us have to work. Many of us work all the way to the last minute till the sun is barely coming down. And you don't have opportunity to do that. So what you try to do, try to handle your stuff on Thursday. If there's a will, there's a way. Do your best to get everything handled. Let's look at this word for kindle. The word kindle is interesting because it's being used multiple different ways. The word for kindle is ba'ar, which is H1197, ba'ar. And that is a primitive root to kindle that is consumed by fire or by eating. Also from H1198, to be or become brutish. Be brutish. Bring, put, take away, burn, cause to eat up, feed, heat, kindle, set on fire, and waste. So it says, you shall not kindle a fire. And notice right before it says kindling the fire, it says in there that 6 days you do all your work, but the 7th day is a Shabbat. Then it says, don't kindle a fire. So it's letting you know that putting that fire together, back in the day when they had to create a fire, it ain't like us. We just hit a lighter and everything is there. Or we go put push button on a microwave and it heats right up. That ain't work. That ain't gonna be stressful to you and cause sweat by your brow. He says by the sweat of your brow you're gonna do this. No, it ain't that. You just hit a button. But now if you got to go out there and go chop some wood down, put some logs on the fire, bring them together, set rocks around it, take your stuff and rub these sticks together till you kindle a fire. And then you make the fire. Then you got to skin your animal. You got to chop the meat up, bleed the animal, get all the blood. Do all that stuff is work. That's a lot of work.
Yep.
That should have been done the day before. That's what that's talking about. Now, you got some people that say they won't do anything. They won't hit a microwave. You know, you got some Jewish people, they cut off all the lights in their house.
Yep.
And sit in darkness because they don't want to kindle a fire. Hey, to me, that's going extreme. Again, I'm not the commandment. I can only advise. I don't do that. I can't do that. I do the best I can, and my covering and the people I cover and the people I deal with, they do the best they can. But if in your heart, again, every man must seek their own salvation with fear and trembling. And if your heart, you feel that it's wrong for you to put your food in the microwave, then don't do it. Don't say Yadon said do it, because I ain't telling you to do that. If I got to microwave something, I'm microwave it. I'm sorry. It ain't no work. There's no fire in the microwave. But at the end of the day, what I won't do is I won't go out there and go fix my grill to go barbecue and go put everything together and nah, I'm not finna do all that. I wait till the nighttime to do all that. Or I prepare the day before. That's what I'll do. You know, so that's pertaining to that. And there's also another thing that we're going to read about the man that which we're going to read next in Numbers. That's gathering them sticks. What he was gathering sticks for?
For fire.
He gathered sticks for fire. What you think he was going to play hopscotch sticks, or you know, you going to pay he going to build a house? Either way, he was preparing to do some work.
Right.
That's what he doing with them sticks. He's going to carve the sticks. He probably going to make an idol out of it. I don't know what he's doing. Either way, he's getting ready to do some work. And he said, I'm going to get all the good sticks because everybody in there keeping the Shabbat. Mm-hmm. Completely different story. And then furthermore, how you going to light the incense without lighting the fire? How you going to light the menorah without lighting the fire? Mm-hmm. How you going to do your burnt offerings without lighting the fire? So is it really the fire that he has the issue with? Or is it the work, doing work in the mind for commerce that he has a problem with? And that's how I precept it. Again, that's my understanding based upon the best information that I have when I put precept upon precept, line upon line. Now, there's others that disagree, and I won't rebuke them. I will not rebuke them, because I'm not going to rebuke you for doing above and beyond of what I consider above and beyond. And that may be the baseline, and my understanding may change in the future. And if it changes and I read more scriptures and it shows me that I need to stop all that together, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repent.
Yeah, we should repent, you know. But see, in the beginning, you know, when Yahweh say, I don't want you to be coming out of your house, you know, because he provided every day with showbread. He provided every day with manna so they can eat. So, and that's why he told them. He said, okay,
don't even leave your tents.
Yeah, I give you 6 days. I'm giving it to you every day. Now, the 7th day, I give you a double portion. That you prepared on the 6th day. So you don't have to do anything on the 7th day. It'll already be taken care of. And it's the only time that the showbread didn't rot. So he gave them preparation for that. So he prepared them to put it in their mind and training to them understand. See, later on, when he take that away after, what, 40 years or so forth? When you take that away, you should have learned through your generations, taught generations that it's instilled in them, then don't defile my Shabbat. Right. Even when it's time for you to start cooking for yourself, hunting for yourself, he already trained them. But in the beginning, he had to treat them just like, I don't want to use the word, you know, a sadish, you know, stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, just sit down. Because you can't understand the thing.
You're killing yourself.
Just sit down and don't do nothing. Because if you go do something, you're going to defile my law and I got to kill you. And that's what it is. Hey, you went against Yahweh, you were smashed. You was dead. And especially if you go against certain laws. So he was trying to help his children. He's showing love to his children because he's providing for his children the water and the food. All they have to do is understand the concept.
Right.
You know?
Right. And again, Israelite gathering will never teach you to not do what these commandments tell you to do. And if you, with your level of understanding and the best of your counsel that's around you, feel that you're not going to light any fire, you're not going to have no lights on in your house, you go just be all the way. Don't just say I ain't going to cook, I ain't going to use the microwave, but then you're over there lighting a blunt. Nah, be all the way. If you're going to do it, all the way, do it. And guess what? The Most High is not going to punish you for that. you know, because you are doing above and beyond. But what he might do is grant you better understanding. You realize, I don't need to do all that. I'm focusing on the wrong thing. You know, let me treat my neighbor like myself. Let me stop oppressing people.
Yeah.
Let me focus on those things to a better extent so that I can have a peaceful Shabbat. All right, so let's move on. We're going to Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 15. And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Sharon Pinky. And Sharon Pinky comment is about work indeed. Some had to use fire to melt metals and their crafts and literally chop wood for fires. And that would be considered labor. And I agree with that. I agree with that because that's what it was. Why would the Most High have a problem with a fire when he's asking us to burn things by fire on the Shabbat? But he has a problem with us not preparing and using the Sabbath day as a day to do all your work. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. Numbers chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 32 through 36. Bamidbar chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 32 through 36. Verse 32. And while the children of Yasharah were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Shabbat day. And they that found him gathered sticks, brought him unto Moshe and Aaron, and unto all the assembly. And they put him in ward, because it was not declared what should be done to him. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, the man shall be surely put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without, which is outside of the camp, and stoned him with stones, and he died, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. So that's pretty heavy. You know, man, the man was gathering sticks and got stoned to death. Well, you got to understand what's going on here. They're in the wilderness. Yahweh is walking amongst these people. Yahshua is following them in the wilderness. The closer you are to Yahweh, the less room you have for mistakes. Because the angel is not going to pardon your iniquity. What does it say? You know, beware of him, because my name is in him. That's right. And he will not pardon your iniquity. So as we come closer to the Most High, this is why when we make that covenant to receive of the Holy Spirit and be immersed in the name of Yahshua HaMashiach and become part of the body, the belt whippings get worse. Because you are coming closer to the Most High. He's now giving you the Holy Spirit to guide you, and you ignoring that. Not only ignoring your conscience, but you ignoring the Holy Spirit too. So the Most High going to deal with you a little bit more. And furthermore, he had to make an example so a bunch of people don't die, because we were stiff-necked already coming out of captivity. The same thing is going to happen when we have to go into the wilderness for the second time, which is the desert, by the way. We thinking wilderness is like, you know, the trees and bushes. Now, wilderness is the desert. We're going to have to go by the desert again. And when we go in there, we're going to be dealing with the same thing. A bunch of people that were raised in Babylon, raised outside in captivity, acting like heathens, and the rebels are going to have to be purged out, or else all of Yahshua are going to be purged out. So we had to do that. So again, the sticks, the act of doing this work, you can't start that fire without the sticks. Back in those days, they didn't have no microwaves back in the day.
You know, there's something else going on here too. You know, Yahweh used all the congregation to stone this man to death. That means they acted as a partaker in Yahweh's judgment. Right. So you can't go after seeing people throw stones at this man to kill this man, and you didn't throw no stone, and you say, well, you know, it could easily slip my mind because I didn't throw no stone at the man, you know, so hey, I ain't do it. So no. You, all of you, gonna throw stones at that man to be able to take in there to say, well, if he gotta die, remember, it's on you also. You go against Yahweh's law, you die too.
So think about it.
That's right. The blood's on your hand too. You understand? Right. Because you upholding Yahweh's law. So you go against Yahweh's law, that's gonna happen to you.
Right. All right, so we are moving on. We're going to Shemot, Exodus chapter 16, and we're going to talk about that manna in the wilderness. This is before he gave the dispensation of the law. Exodus chapter 16, Shemot. Come on, you're going to go back 2 books. to Exodus chapter 16, backwards 2 books. The other direction. That way. Yeah, turn the pages that way. Backwards 2 books to Exodus 16. Shemot chapter 16, and we're gonna start this at verse 1, and we're gonna read about this wilderness. And Sister Sharon brought up another good point about how are they going to read in the wilderness without any light? You know, how are they going to be able to do that? Now, it did say that there was a cloud. Was it a cloud of smoke by the day and a pillar of light by night? So there was some light, but that is a very good point. You still would have to have some kind of fire to stay warm, or they would have done something, but they would have had to have already prepared that stuff. Mm-hmm. So kindling, when you kindle a fire, that's like putting together something for a fire.
It was already taken care of.
Nobody say, can you kindle a fire on this cigar for me? No. Don't nobody say that. You just light the cigar. But now if we're gonna go outside in the camp, let's go kindle a fire, start a fire. That's different. We gotta go put stuff together and get a fire pit and do all. That's work. Complete. You gotta use your precepts, more than one space, not just one line, or your own understanding could mislead you. So Exodus chapter 16, Shemot chapter 16. We're gonna start this at verse 1. And they took their journey from Elim. And all the congregation of the children of Yasharal came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Mizraim. So interesting. This is the 15th day of the 2nd month. What is the importance of that? Anybody?
We have Passover, we have unleavened bread.
2nd month.
And then we have...
this is the 2nd month. But it's the 15th day of the 2nd month, which starts when? At nighttime. So on the 15th day of the 2nd month, the law wasn't given yet, but on the 15th day of the 2nd month is for everybody that missed the first Passover. If you missed the first Passover, that's the only holy day where it says, man, if you ain't get right for this one, I'm going to be merciful and give you a second chance to do it. And that's what that was. On the 15th day of the 2nd month is when you would have you would have to eat that second Passover if you missed that first Passover.
Yeah, that was some people that, might have been
traveling or unclean
so
or whatever.
He gave them a second chance to be there.
For death to pass over you. All right, and verse 2. And the whole congregation of the children of Yasharal murmured against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Yasharal said unto them, would it to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Mizraim, when we sat by the flesh pots, and we did eat bread to the full. For you have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. And this is what happens. When our bellies get hungry, the lust for flesh and the lust for food, we'll throw everything to the side. We'll forget about everything. And this is why Yahweh has the day for us to fast, for us to practice not listening to that carnal urge of your stomach. Verse 4. Then said Yahweh unto Moshe, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, and I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no.
That's it.
And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily.
I want to say something on that right quick. Just because, if you just read verse 4, so if you underline walk in my law or no, this is before he gave them the laws. So this shows that the law is already there. He just gave it to them in Exodus 20 later on. All
dispensation, right.
So, but this tells right there that the laws are already in place. I think it's also in Genesis also already in place. So I remember somebody was talking about some pastor or somebody that was talking about Hasatan was saying he's trying to help you keep the law. And I'm like, how is our enemy trying to help us keep the law?
Some power to power us and to kill him, that doesn't make any sense. He wants death.
He wants death. So we going to befriend Hasatan?
Yeah, the
now?
only law he might try to help you keep is the law of animal sacrifice, you know, and blood sacrifice.
Yeah, to go against.
Yeah, he might help you try to keep that.
But this law is already in place. So somebody said, well, if he's telling you to keep the law, you know, so what are you trying to put in somebody's mind?
Right.
You understand that he's your friend now?
Right.
You understand? So he's going to help you keep the law. When you break the law, but he help you keep the law. No, 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 no. This law already was in place a long time ago told you to keep the law.
Right.
You know, you don't need the enemy trying to help you keep the law.
He's not trying to help you get life.
So he's saying if the law wasn't there, you understand? So we're not breaking the law if the law wasn't there, if you didn't know nothing about the law. But yet this man, you know, they tell you right here that these people didn't know the law at that time.
Right.
So Yahweh is testing his people right now if you're going to walk in my law or not.
Right. And part of that also has to be effect of whatever Yah comes out his mouth is law.
That's right.
That's commandment. So I'm going to see if you're going to listen to me or not. I'm going to tell you how you get this manna. That's going to show me whether you're going to keep commandments or not. I don't care what the commandment is. Anything that come out of his mouth, you follow that. And if you don't do that, that's showing that you're not going to keep his law.
That's right.
Period. Verse 6. And Moshe and Aaron said unto all the children of Yasharal at even. Actually, we're at verse 5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moshe and Aaron said unto all the children of Yasharal at even. Then you shall know that Yahweh hath brought you out of the land of Mizraim. And in the morning, then you shall see the glory of Yahweh, for that he hears your murmuring against Yahweh. And what are we that you murmur against us? And Moshe said, this shall be when Yahweh shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. For that Yahweh heareth your murmurings which you murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yahweh. And we have to remember that when we try to tell people about these commandments, we try to tell them, hey, keep the Sabbath day, keep the Shabbat. Oh, no, you ain't got to do that. Oh, that's from thousands of years ago. Oh, no, that's old law. They not murmuring against you. Who are you? You didn't write this law. No. Your name ain't on this law. You ain't the author.
No, it's his words.
That's the Most High. You're a messenger of the Most High. You are keeping the commandments when it says you shall in no wise suffer sin upon your brother. You shall rebuke him in any wise. That's what you doing. You showing love. You keeping the commandments. They murmuring against Yahweh. So don't take it personal. Verse 9. And Moshe spoke unto Aaron, say unto all the congregation of the children of Yasharal, come near before Yahweh, for ye have heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spoke unto the whole congregation of the children of Yasharal, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahweh appeared in the cloud. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Yasharal. Speak unto them, saying, at even you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. And you shall know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay round about the host.
I got a question on that. Just like, you know, we're talking about what's real. That happens right now. I was about to say that. Oh, go on there.
What you're about to bring up, there's a documentary about the real Mount Sinai, which shows and proves, like what the elder was saying, that the quails even to this day fly over from Egypt all the way across the river, and they fall. They get so tired from flying that they fall right around Mount Jabal Allah, which is where the real Mount Sinai is, which means the mountain of laws, according to the Arabic language, or they call it the Mount of Moses, Moshe. So this happens even to today, showing that our story can be proven in history, and there's still remnants of artifacts showing where this happened and that it's truly happened. We can do that in our history book, because this is what this is. It's a history book and a book of prophecy. Verse 5, and it shall come to pass that on the 6th day They shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moshe and Aaron said unto all the children of Yasharah, at even you shall know Yahweh hath brought you out from the land of Mizraim. And in the morning, then you shall see the glory of Yahweh, for that he shall hear your murmurings against Yahweh. And what are we that you murmur against us? And Moshe said, this shall be when Yahweh shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. For that which Yahweh hears your murmurings, which you murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yahweh. And Moshe spake unto Aaron, say unto all the congregation of the children of Yasharah, come near before Yahweh, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spoke unto the whole congregation of the children of Yasharah, that they looked towards the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahweh appeared in a cloud. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, I have heard your murmurings of the children of Yasharah. Speak unto them, saying, at even you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoar frost on the ground. And when the children of Yasharah saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, for they knew not what it was. And Moshe said unto them, this is the bread which Yahweh has given you to eat. This is the thing which Yahweh hath commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, and omer for every man according to the number of your persons. Take you every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Yasharah did so, and gathered some more, some less.
About 2 liters.
And what this is also showing is Yahweh want for you to have what you need, not to always try to have an overabundance of things. We always want more than what we need, when Yahweh is always going to provide you enough for what you need. Verse 17, and the children of Yasharah did so, and gathered some more, some less. And when they did measure it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moshe said, let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moshe, but some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was mad with them. And they gathered every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe. And he said unto them, this is that which Yahweh had said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Shabbat unto Yahweh. Bake that which you bake today, and seed that which you will seed. And that which remain over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up to the morning as Moshe bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moshe said, eat that today, for today is the Shabbat unto Yahweh. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days shall you gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Shabbat, in it there shall be no more. So here you see the miracle of Yahweh for Sabbath keepers. Now, back then we weren't getting paychecks. We weren't getting money. So we had 6 days to get that money, so we get the money so we can eat. That's the whole reason we work, so we can eat. It says if a man don't work, he shouldn't eat. So replace the food with money. You go get your money. You got 6 days to get enough money to pay your bills and to feed you and your family. The 7th day belong to Yahweh. So Sabbath keepers, Friday should be a great day at work for you. It should be profitable. I just had a good Friday. Made good money at my job because I'm a Sabbath keeper. I'm a believer. I'm not missing nothing on the Shabbat because the Most High gonna give us twice as much on the Shabbat, on the preparation day to cover for your Shabbat. So you're not missing nothing. Verse 27.
Well, if anybody want to know what an omer is, it gives information on that. Basically, it says that omer is 1/10 of an ephah, 2 dry liters or 2 dry quartz. And omer is also translated as a sheaf, the amount of grain required for bundling. So it's about 2 liters. So, you know, it gives enough where they can meal it together.
Like a 2-liter bottle?
Right. 2 liters, yeah.
2-liter bottle,
Right.
you fill it up with a dry measure of something.
Right. That way they can knead it and so forth and make the dough and make the cakes. And they say it tastes like honey. Coriander seed and honey.
Right. And that sheaf is also how you know the difference between the offering, the free will offering that you make, and the first fruits offering. The first fruits offering was a sheaf. So it lets you know those are 2 different offerings, because one gives you a specific amount, a measurement, and the other one is offer what you can.
It's a bundle.
Right.
Yeah.
Offer what you can. Verse 27. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, how long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for that Yahweh hath given you the Shabbat, therefore he gives you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide you every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So this was a commandment. Stay in your tent. Don't even come out. But that was for that period of time. How are we going to convocate? How are we going to come together in Mikra if we can't leave the house? All right. And so the people rest on the 7th day. Verse 31. And the house of Yasharal called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. And Moshe said, this is the thing which Yahweh commands. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that you may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth out of the land of Mizraim. And Moshe said unto Aaron, take a pot, and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before Yahweh to be kept for your generations. As Yahweh commanded Moshe, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Yasharal did eat manna 40 years, until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is the 10th part of an ephah. All right. So let's move on. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 13. Nehemiah. And that's after Kings, Chronicle, and Ezra, and before Esther, Job, and Psalms. Nehemiah chapter 13. Now again, we read earlier and we talked earlier about how we're not supposed to be buying stuff on the Shabbat or selling stuff. That's work. That's commerce. That's disrespectful unto the Most High. This is why we can't go to the movies on the Sabbath day. I want to go see Black Panther just like everybody else, but I wait till Saturday night.
Right.
I'm not going Friday night, you know, the premiere, because somebody got to work. Somebody got to be oppressed so that I can enjoy a movie. Nah, it ain't that serious. I got 6 days out the week I can go see that movie.
People say, well, they're going to work anyway. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you have to
So
oppress
then-
your brother
so then
because
you-
they're working anyway.
They want to work anyway, so you are co-signing that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay to work.
yeah.
It's okay because I'm a God. You can serve me. You're supposed to serve the Most High on the Shabbat.
That's right.
You're supposed to work for Him, not work for you. And people try to, you know, gainsay and find their ways around it. No, it's oppression. No, it's oppression that this stuff is even available on the Shabbat. That it's even lawful for anybody to do that. That's oppression. His laws are not grievous.
If we was on the land, all that be closed down.
Right. You see how they used to have everything closed on Sundays?
That's right.
We ain't complain about that.
The blue laws
Right.
closed
The
down.
Sunday laws that they had.
Right now, you got what? What's the name of that eatery?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. They believe in their Christianity, so they keep their, you know, Sunday off, close down Sunday. So why don't we keep our Shabbats?
Right.
And keep it and close down our work days.
Chick-fil-A
you know?
and everywhere now. They in New York now too.
Everywhere.
Chick-fil-A making that cake.
Yeah, they are.
They making that money, and I disagree. I disagree with the day they doing it, but at least they putting their money where their mouth is, that they believe in something, to the point where they putting all that time and attention and giving up money. So who knows, the Most High may find mercy because of that and say, you know what, guess what? Y'all day was wrong. It's really the 7th day, not the 1st day. So if you can make that change, hey, you can live. He may do that. But if you know better, we know better, because every last one of us got a cell phone. Every last one of us got a calendar, because we looking for payday. So that's how you know we got a calendar.
That's right.
You look in your calendar, you start from the left side, and that's 1. And go to the right side, you're going to get to 7. And when you get to 7, you look up on your calendar, it's going to say Saturn Day, which they call Saturn Day. You know, and people try to say, oh, how they going to be the Shabbat? They got a pagan name. Every day of the week got a pagan name.
Sure does.
What day of the week don't have a pagan day?
Pagan name.
A pagan name. It's because they named it. We ain't supposed to call it that. We supposed to say Shabbat, 1st day, 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day, 5th day, 6th day. Shabbat.
Even the months. Only 1 month that he named was Abib. The rest of them was just
right.
2nd month, 3rd month.
And then you know those new Jewish names they gave ain't legit. They using pagan names.
Yeah, Tammuz.
Bull for Baal.
Yeah, and Tammuz.
Tammuz. Come on, now you know that ain't us. Nehemiah chapter 13, and we're going to start this at verse 1. On that day, they read in the book of Moshe in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Elohim forever.
Wow.
Because they met not the children of Yasharah with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from all of Yasharah all the mixed multitude. And if you look at that word for mixed multitude, is Arab.
That's right.
The word Arab, which is interesting. Arab. Verse 4. And before this, Eliashib, the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of our Elohim, was allied unto Tobiah. And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offerings, the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithes of corn, the new wine, and the oil, which was commanded to be given to the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the offerings of the priests. But in all this time was not I at Jerusalem, for the 23rd year of Anazarces, king of Babylon, came I unto the king, and after certain days obtained I leave of the king. Anazarces, that's Xerxes from that movie 300.
300, yeah.
Right. Verse 7. And I came to Jerusalem and understood the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of Elohim. And it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers, and thither brought I against the vessels of the house of Elohim with the meat offering and the frankincense. This brother got some nerve. Posted up and made an apartment out of the house of Yahweh. Verse 10. That's how you know that's our people. Verse 10. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field. Then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of Elohim forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Yehudah the tithe of the corn and the new wine and the oil into the treasuries. And I made treasurers over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest, Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites, Pedaiah. And next to them was Hanan the son of Zakur and the son of Mattaniah. And they were counted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto the brethren. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my Elohim and for the offices thereof. In those days saw I Yehudah, some treading wine presses on the Shabbat, and bringing in sheaves, and lading donkeys, as also wine grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Shabbat day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. They are not only doing work on the Shabbat, but they are also bringing it in to sell on the Shabbat. Again, work and creating work is profaning the Sabbath day. You can't prepare something that you are trying to sell for somebody else. You can't do that. And Shabbat Shalom to Brother Sayewela Rutusi, straight from South Africa, Azania. Praise Yah. Brothers coming from the motherland. Verse 16. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Shabbat unto the children of Yehuda, and in Jerusalem. Now let me ask you this. How are these brothers able to do this? Tyre is not, that's not Israel. That's outside. That's Gentiles. That's heathens. How are they able to come in here? Men of Yehuda. How are they able to do this on the Shabbat in Jerusalem?
They was allowed to, brother.
Because the leadership is allowing this.
Allowed to.
Why? Because they probably getting a little kickback under the table to look the other way.
I mean, that's where Yeshua was in and started beating them with a stick and stuff.
Because they turned
his father's house into a place of a prophet.
And how many times have you seen Yeshua with all the wickedness that was done that he actually started whipping folks?
He never did that. But he did that one time.
He did that one time. You messing with Yah's house.
That's right.
You messing with the and it was before it was Passover. Pesach was coming.
Yeah.
So this is preparation day, and this is the holy days coming, and you over here doing this wickedness.
And brother, look at the day. I mean, they even have it on their Sundays. These how you say Catholic beliefs. I look at all of them: Baptist, Pentecostal, under the Catholic regime, having fish fries. Even they're doing it on their Sunday, but that's supposed to be their holy day. Right. They're having fish fries, selling their money for the church.
Right.
I mean, come on now. So you can see how people was doing that with these heathens.
Man, you got Hebrews doing the same thing.
That's right.
You got Hebrews calling themselves after the name of Yah, and then have they store that they physically own open on the Sabbath day. That's wickedness, man.
So they're doing the same thing they did back in the day.
Same exact thing. Verse 17, this is how you know that Nehemiah knows that these nobles are taking part in this. Verse 17, then I contended with the nobles of Yehuda and said unto them, what evil thing is this that you do and profane the Shabbat? If you were able to sell and buy stuff on the Sabbath, then he wouldn't say you profaning the Sabbath.
So, brother, these people are doing the same thing as Malachi 3. They're robbing Yahweh, and also just like people put ATMs in the church.
What you need an ATM in the church for, man? That means you ain't got enough money on you. You ain't got no excuses. I need your money.
You justifying fleecing the flock and making them believe that that's righteous.
Verse 18. Did not your fathers thus, and did not our Elohim bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet bring more wrath upon Yasharal by profaning the Sabbath? And it came to pass, when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Shabbat, I commanded the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be opened till after the Shabbat. And some of my servants set eyed the gates that there should be no burden brought in on the Sabbath. Now, here is one of those haymaker scriptures that let you know when the Sabbath starts. And it came to pass when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark.
That's right.
So that is even before the Sabbath. It's starting to get dark.
A twilight action.
When it becomes dark, it is the Sabbath day. So your Sabbath can't start in the daytime. That is Egyptian Babylonian culture. That is not our culture. That's how the world does their days. Then they said, I'm going to confuse the hell out of them. I'm going to start a day at midnight. An AM. So it's kind of like it's starting in the morning, but it's not really the morning. So I can get both people to agree.
Yeah.
Because it's in the morning, but yet it's still in night.
Right.
So that's New World Order.
That's right.
Verse 20. So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge you about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Shabbat. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Shabbat day. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of your mercy.
The best he could.
All right. So we're going to actually break this class up in two. We got some more stuff that we're going to read. So we're going to stop here, and we're going to go ahead and continue with our Sabbath feast. We'll pick this up on Bible study, and we're going to go over more of the Mashiach. Also, we're going to go in the book of Jubilees, which also gives more laws pertaining to how to keep the Shabbat day. So again, praise Yah if Yah put it in your heart to honor this day and to hallow this day. And that's a blessing that will be onto you and to your family for doing so. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? All right. All brothers remove their head coverings. And all sisters pray with their heads covered. And we are going to face the east towards Jerusalem. All right. Elder Mikael, can you go ahead and close us out in prayer?
Father Yahweh, most holy and true covenant, Elohim, Abraham, Yishak, and Yaakov, we give you all thanks and all praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. For allowing us, Father Yahweh, to teach your word, Father Yahweh, to speak your word, Father Yahweh, and to live your word, Father Yahweh. We ask your mercy upon us, Father Yahweh, and make our mistakes, Father Yahweh, and help us get our feet back on the right path, Father Yahweh. Because you all want us to serve you, Father Yahweh, in truth, with a broken and contrite heart, Father Yahweh. So we ask, Father Yahweh, in Yeshua's name, to have your mercy spread upon us, Father Yahweh. And if we be chastised, Father, be brave, Father. Don't chastise us on your hot displeasure, Father Yahweh, but in your mighty mercy, Father Yahweh. We ask, Father Yahweh, that the people around, Father, to hear your holy word, Father, to follow your word, Father. Hopefully, Father Yahweh, they have a heart to follow you, Father Yahweh, because you know who will follow you, Father Yahweh, but these people, us, Father, you know, and we will follow you, Father Yahweh, because you're going to show our heart to us, Father Yahweh. So give you thanks and praise, Father Yahweh, for teaching us your holy and mighty word, Father, little by little, person upon person, line on line, Father Yahweh. And we ask, Father Yahweh, that we will be able to follow your word, Father Yahweh. So we ask, Father, Yeshua, my name, Father, for your kindness and your love, Father Yahweh, to spread upon us, Father, in the four corners of the world for all that wish to follow your mighty word, Father Yahweh. Give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. Amen.